Hello and welcome back to the Frontend House channel. My name is Paweł, I'm head of design here at Frontend House, and today I have prepared for you a video about what should devs know about design. So stay tuned for that and let's roll the intro. What exactly should developers know about design, about UX design or UI design? First of all, maybe we should first clarify what is UI and what is UX design. So UI is basically the overall look of an application, of how it looks like and how it navigates sort of like by visual hierarchy on the website. All the buttons, how they look like, what color they are, and all of that is basically UI design. However, user experience design is basically how the application behaves. What happens when you press this, what happens when you press that, or how should the overall experience of user look like. So those are like the major differences and basically like a very general description of what UI is and what UX design is. So when we have this already behind us, why should developers know the difference and why should they learn at least a little bit about maybe both, maybe UI design or maybe UX design? So one of those things is something that is actually a lot of times a problem in many organizations, which is communication. Designers communicating with front-end developers and front-end developers communicating with designers. When we have a better knowledge of what the other side is doing, we can better communicate, better understand the problems and better clarify what our problem is and what maybe they should change. This works both ways, as well as if designers knew, for example, what API is and how certain things appear on a web page, or basically how the developers are working, CSS, HTML and a little bit of JavaScript. It also helps designers communicating with mostly front-end developers. So communicating and knowing what alignments are, what are white spaces, and how do you design certain things is definitely something that might help communicate those two departments in one organization. Not even in one organization, but basically help front-end developers or maybe any developer that is working on any visual aspect of the application to work and communicate with the designers. That is why it's very important, in my opinion, that we know actually a little bit of what the other side is actually doing. One of the first things that I think personally that developers should get a little grasp of is the tools. So what are the tools that the designers are using? So at least this time, at the moment when I'm recording this video, maybe not most, but certainly a lot of designers are using tools like Figma, Sketch, or Adobe Experience Design. Those are, I think, the three biggest tools right now, and I think the biggest one of them for this moment is Figma. So getting a little know of what is this software, how does it work, will prove definitely very beneficial to you as a front-end developer. The Figma has its own set of rules, how it behaves. It allows multiple people working at the same project while seeing what the other person is basically doing. You can inspect certain files and you can go to design phase if you are allowed to do that. You can install certain plugins. So for example, you could look up that in Figma, there's a plugin that allows you to inspect a code, but not in like CSS or HTML manner, but it shows you the code for React or maybe for Angular, or whatever framework or library you are working on. Those kind of plugins might allow you to make your job basically easier. And why is it important that you know that and not the designers? Well, designers might not know the difference between React and Angular, for example, or they might not know that a certain plugin could be beneficial to you because they do not have the knowledge that you possess. So you have this knowledge and then you use it to find those plugins. Like for example, here I have React plugin that allows me to inspect a code in React way of writing a code. So you can then inspect this and copy it and paste it as a class or anything into React, or whatever actually you are using as a component, for example, in React, and then you have it ready and you don't have to write separate another lines of code, which makes your job easier or anything other. That's why it is important for you to get a little bit knowledge about the tools that that the designers are using. And then thanks to this knowledge, you can find yourself plugins, and maybe even from time to time, if you need to change something that is like a really minor thing, like maybe perhaps the designer made some mistake, or maybe the designer is on their days off and you need to change something and they are not here. So if you know how to do it, because you need, for example, change only a size of text at a certain page, because if you do it only on the web, only on your application, and you won't do it in design, then somebody after that, like a QA engineer, might come to you and tell you that this text doesn't match the text size that is on the designs, and you might forget why it's that. So you have to remember and stuff like that. So for example, if you think that, or somebody will tell you, shit, this size of the text is too big, we need to make it smaller, and there's no designer available, you can go there and just change it by yourself. That is why it would be good for you to get a little bit knowledge of Figma. But another things that you might find interesting and profitable for you, because sometimes you might not work with a designer, because like somebody will tell you, oh, this is an application that will be used only for the administration of us. There's like 5 people or 6 or maybe even 2 or 3 that will be using it. So we don't need like a very beautiful UI design or something like that. And they don't want, they will not want to pay for designers, but you have to work on that. So there's some things that are really minor, and maybe not minor, but really important, but easy to learn. Like, for example, white spaces. So white spaces is basically this space that, let's say, doesn't have anything on her. Like it's not any, it's just an empty space sort of that you have on your application. So when you, for example, use it correctly, you might make text more visible, more readable, or if you make the text like more tightened up in like 3 paragraphs very close to each other, which means that the white space will be very little and a lot of white space around it, you may make the text less readable, and everything like around the text that will be white or black or whatever will be empty. It will just kind of make you feel uncomfortable. So this is why white spaces are really important to just use and keep in mind of. That's the spaces that are empty, that they are like empty for a reason, sort of, that you, for example, make a lot of content on the left side, it expands to the right, so then this right side for a moment might be a little bit empty. So you might think, okay, we have a very empty space on this right side, what can we do? Maybe you can set up a little bit of a mini tutorial there, like saying press this on the left or something, or any kind of illustrations, and that will make the UI more pleasant for the user, something like that. But the white spaces are certainly something that, as a developer, you could know. Basically, you could know and have some fun with it, and be more proud of what the UI you make within the application as a developer. Another thing that's really important and quite easy to just grasp is alignment. So alignment is basically like certain things appear in a certain order, for example, below each other, to make it look like visual hierarchy, and the information architecture, information hierarchy is set up in the correct way. So for example, if you have a list on the left that is very like below each other, they are very aligned on the left side, and then if something would appear below but a little bit to the right, this might think that this thing is nested to this item above it, sort of. So because of that, you might feel, as a user, you will think that, okay, so if you have an item that appears below and to the right of the item above it, you will see it as a nested one, which implies that it's quite within this category of the item above. So alignment, this is why it's very important to just keep in track, keep a mind on it, as well as, for example, when you have a web page, and this is something developers do, designers do it, it's a container. So containers, you have these certain margins on the left, on the right, that keep it aligned into this container. So everything then is connected in a right way. So alignment would be another thing that you could probably learn a thing or two about, to just make it more readable. And alignment certainly is very important when it comes to visual into information architecture of your web page. That's why alignment is this one thing also that you might want to learn about, a thing or two. Colors and consistency. So when designers set up, like design a certain page, they use a set of colors. Yeah, you know that. Like we use like 5 colors. Those are 5 different colors. From time to time, maybe a little bit like brighter or darker. But basically, we use those 5 colors, and those colors most of the time will have a meaning. So, for example, if you have a red color, this red color will most likely be aligned to errors or something like this. Like I don't know. For example, cancel. Like you have a cancel and add button. Yeah. So, or even cancel and proceed. So proceed will be green and cancel will be red. And if you use, for example, red color on a proceed button and green color on a cancel button, this will be extremely confusing for everyone. This is why those colors are very important to set up what do they mean. And most of the designers, or actually all of them, should write down like little bit of documentation what kind of colors mean certain things. Like green is for proceed, and anything that, for example, makes a change or anything like that. Blue ones are quite neutral. Gray ones are something that makes it like disabled. Red ones is for canceling a certain action, stuff like that. That's why you should know that you should know those colors, set them up before you proceed to make any UI changes and UI actually. And thanks to that, you will have like all the colors written down and you know when to use them, and other people will know when to use them. Also, when it comes to colors, it's also the consistency of using them. You cannot use red color for canceling and proceeding. This is like this consistency that we use a certain color for a certain action. And thanks to that, we basically have this kind of consistency within the entire application that makes the user feel more comfortable and doesn't like exceed any kind of cognitive overload on him. That's why colors and consistency are very important, and this is something that you should actually really know something about. So yeah, colors and consistency would be the next thing for you. Also, like base components that you use on the application. As a web developer, front-end developer, or any kind of developer that works on the UI aspects of a web page or application, you know all of them. You know buttons, inputs, cards, any of those things that might appear, headers, footers, stuff like that. So when it comes to like a design phase, it's also really important to design them in a one certain way and keep them consistent. Like all inputs kind of look almost the same. You don't use 2 or 3 different designs for inputs or for buttons. If you, for example, decide that your button should have a little bit of corner radius, then all of them should have a corner radius. Like it's not like you have some buttons have corner radius and some of them don't have it. The same goes from inputs. If some inputs are in a rectangle, then all of them should be in a rectangle instead of some being in a rectangle and some should be just a line. That's why this is also the matter of consistency within that. So those base components that designers use should be easy for you to understand. Also, like I'm sure like a lot of you know this, but you should actually know as many components as you need to, because when you design a web page, you must sort of like use certain components that will fit the action that user want to do, or will fit like the visuals of what you want to accomplish within an application. Like for example, we use cards, for example, products. Like we want to show a product, so those products appear on cards. But we don't use cards, for example, in menu because they are too big. So knowing those components, knowing what they are like responsible for and what should you use them for is very beneficial. So there's like a lot of more components you should look up, like Google Material or BMI has its own like design system. Microsoft, you should check out those design systems and just see what they kind of have on them, what kind of components they are using and what they are using them for, and what kind of basically like purpose they are created for. So base components, just basically like components. This is very important. I'm sure a lot of you know this, but if you don't, because you like kind of leave it for the designers, then you should definitely learn that. Those were just a few things that I found that, in my opinion, are crucial and important for the developers to know. But you may know a lot of them more. Like maybe you think that there's something different. Maybe you think that I didn't mention something that you think is different. So please write it down in the comments, and so the other people might know about it too. It's just a short list of some things that I think are crucial. But as I said, a lot of more things you should know, or maybe some of those things that I mentioned you shouldn't know. I don't know. I'm just a human being. Thank you very much for this video, and we upload new content every Friday, so keep tuned and keep waiting for those. And as for now, thank you very much and have a pleasant day. Bye.